Okay, I'm going to attempt to do a Virpil CosmoSim cam install video here. Hopefully this will go well, but I haven't done this before, so who knows. So I got all the tools I need. I got 8mm wrench, 2.5mm hex screw, and another spare one of those, and also 8mm socket. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to take off the grip by unscrewing this. Grip is off, and I'm going to pull up on this, and it looks like the plug came out by itself, which is handy. So this is a Virpil Constellation Delta grip, which I'll kind of try to do a close-up of here, and it's very nice for Star Citizen. I'm liking it. Look at the alpha eventually, but for now I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm going to put this aside. Now, next thing to do is take the base off this grip. I do have this big triangular, or whatever this shape is, complex shape base here that, because I use it on the desktop, so I don't have any fancy mounts. So I'm going to take these screws out. That's how they're fastened, these 2.5mm. Unfortunately, they do get a little strippy. So this one is not coming out. Let's try this other backup screwdriver. Okay, now it's coming up with this one, even though they're both 2.5. It's one of the kind of annoying things. It's probably more the tools than it is than the screws, but we'll see. Quickly with my fingers. Alright, it's off. And we see the beautiful inside of the Virpil WarBRD base. So this whole video is going to be a bit backlighted because all my light sources are on the opposite side. Not much I can do about that because I don't have a good place over here to mount put the camera. Anyway, it still looks decent on the video. So now the next step is to take off the 4 top screws around the outer edge here. 1, 2, 3, 4. With the 2.5-inch hex driver, and thankfully this one feels like it's coming out very, just as I spoke. That one's going to be a little tougher. The upper right one, yeah, this one seems to be in a little more tolerance than the other driver that I'm using here. Should probably go pick up another set of these tools. Maybe some of these are a little worn out, I don't know. They're not the highest quality. Not Snap-on or whatever. Okay, so now that I have them loose, they seem to be coming out fairly easily. So the one thing I forgot to grab ahead of time was some needle nose pliers, which I may or may not need. We'll see. Okay, now this should be loose from here. So take this the cord from the grommet, and we'll take this off and put it aside. And we'll just leave it here. A better look at the works here. And I saw one video that pretty much advised disconnecting the cables. At this point, I don't really see a reason to do that. I'm just going to be careful not to put any adverse pressure on things. put this on here to give it a little bit of a base to sit on, maybe, because it doesn't really like sitting on the plastic part. But well, I guess it's not too bad. So we'll sit it there for now. I'll just be very careful not to put much pressure. So the operation here is going to be to loosen these two screws after we take the spring off. So I will now attempt to take off the spring, and that's what I forgot to grab a tool to do that with. So what I will do is I'm going to grab a flathead screwdriver tip and use that with this tool, and it will hopefully allow me to get this disconnected without too much drama. Okay, the video cut out, and I'm in the process of loosening this nut here. I'm holding the bolt on the back. If you can, hopefully you're seeing this pretty well. And oops, this is pretty much loosened. Let me see if I can it's not quite hand loose yet. Well, it's because it has a nylon, oops, backwards, compression fitting, whatever you want. So it's not going to be super loose until you get it most of the way out. So okay, there's the nut. There's the cam, which is the AVSim cam. Now I'm going to get the new cam, which is the CosmoSim cam. And actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to take this side off also. So this one doesn't have as much clearance, so I'm going to have to use this open end of the wrench here to hold it, and use the ratchet to loosen this one too. It's not on there terribly tight, so like you'll see I'm not even using any leverage on the ratchet. Keep going on this until it's most of the way out. See if we can get it with our fingers. Nope, this one's a little tighter, so keep going with the ratchet. There we go. And I'll take this one off and place it over here. Now let's grab our CosmoSim's soft center cams, which I have in this bag. And hopefully I'll remember correctly the orientation. The cams are identical, so we don't have to really worry about that aspect of it. Seems about a little different quality of metal. We'll see. This one goes out, and we'll get our second CosmoSim. This one goes in. And they ride on these bearings here, as we can see. So, oh wait, yeah, that's right. They were at the bottom. It would have been good to note the orientation of those things. So anyway, and I'll tighten these up, back up again. Not tightening them too much. Oops, try not to drop them. Oh. These cams are oily, so they're a bit hard to handle. Alright, so we're going to hold this now. Again, reverse our ratchet. Get this, make sure it's on there straight, and we'll tighten up. turning nice. I'm going to tighten it up just a teensy hair more. That's about it. Not even an eighth of a turn. And then this guy, tighten him up. Hopefully I've got the ratchet on the right. Yeah, of course I don't. Turn it around. I'm using the closed end side on this because it's a little easier to hold. And, oops, I did have it on the right way. Or did I? That's weird. It felt like it was moving. Okay, no, it was moving the opposite direction. Okay. That one on a lot quicker. It's kind of interesting that this bolt does protrude quite a bit more than the bolt on the back because of the spacer here that makes it ride on this bearing relative to the other one. It rides on the inside bearing. That's why. So I'm going to do a little overhand tight. And now we have our new cams on this side. Now I will attempt, this is going to be the tricky part, I can already tell you, to put the spring back on. And hopefully orientation won't matter. Yeah, the springs, well, it definitely came off this way with the open end of the spring up, so I'm going to put it on. Obviously, the smart thing would be to put it on the same way that we took it off, which I shall endeavor to do. And, okay. This one is going to be the most annoying part, I can already tell you, because taking it off, which unfortunately got cut off over the last video, was quite annoying. Okay, so cam. I'll hold in cams kind of close together. Edge of the screw right in the middle. Ah, okay, that went on a lot easier than I thought it would. And as you can see, we're rolling. Oops, get my hand out of the way maybe so you can see it better. I'm looking at this on a screen that's basically backwards, so my movements are kind of difficult to predict. Okay, alright, so that's one side, and that looks like it's on there secure. Now let's work on this one. So it should be the same operation. First things first is take our springs off. Well, actually, first things there first is note the orientation of the cams. This one, again, on the left is facing inward, and this one on the right is facing outward as far as the spring retention screws are oriented, and very similar arrangement to the other side. And obviously the cams profiles are up facing the bearings. Okay, so let's reverse our ratchet. And this one, interesting. Okay, so these are much longer bolts, which are on the other side. Thankfully, they're open. So, oh, but before I do that, take the spring off, dummy. Okay, so now I'm going to attempt to get the spring off on this side. It's harder to get the springs off than it is to put it on, apparently. Well, at least from the experience I just had. Getting this screwdriver underneath the tightened spring is what's kind of annoying. Alright, push it down. Ooh, let's hold on to that, pull it out. And it's out. Okay, guess I'm getting better. Guess I'm getting better at it. Okay, now the spring. Come on, little spring, get out of there. It is loose. Fell down in a little rubber boot. I'm going to fish it out. Put this aside. And now we shall commence loosening the bolts. So since this one is in front, I'll take this one off first. Obviously. Wouldn't make sense otherwise. Start our ratcheting. It's a little tight. I think I have this on backwards for holding this. Okay, it loosened. Loosen the bolt. It should be a little more, or I should say a little less turning, because these bolts have bigger spacers. Okay, so there's the bolt. Let's take the cam off. Cam is off. And we shall loosen the second cam. Isn't really the most optimal way to do this, because the whole unit is moving around because of the it's sitting on the movable part of the handle attachment, and that's why I was originally putting it on top of that other unit, which was a good idea actually. But it wasn't super stable there either, so of course I got it on backwards again. The other side, I should say. So it's moving, ratcheting. Okay, there we go. Alright, so here's the nut. Let's get this out of the way. Take the nut off. Put this down. We'll put it here so we put it back on the same side. Not that it really matters. And take the cam out. Now we have those two. So now we will put our CosmoSim, Russian accent, I guess, on this way. This faces out, and this was on behind because it rides on this bearing. And this one goes on the opposite direction, faces inward, and rides on the outer bearing. Okay. So jeez. Of course, it went down to the boot. These are slippery, slippery, slippery. There it is. Okay, once again. Oh, jeez. Oh, God. Now this one decided to slip down the boot. These caps back on. Come on, get in there. Get our nut, and we'll try to start this nut here. They're lubricated, so they're very slippery little guys. Some very light machine oil, it appears. Let me clean my fingies off to make things a little better. Put this nut on and start. Make sure it's not cross-threaded and all that fun stuff. That looks good. And I'll tighten this inner one up. Flip the ratchet. Hope we have it on the right way. So loose it won't even ratchet. Let's turn this a little bit. There we go. Okay. little slow here because I don't want to over tighten this. Okay, this is still loose, so we want to tighten it up more. I don't want the bolt turning freely in the, oh, I accidentally flipped my ratchet. Ah, there we go, now it is hand tight. So we'll go like maybe that much more, and it should be good. Okay, now let's tighten up this guy. So here I'm gonna hold this, because when it's loose, it's so loose that the ratchet doesn't even take the force of the return of this, the ratchet wrench. Okay, that went a lot faster. This is the hand tight at this point. Go a little more. I should do that. Okay, looking good. Oh crap, maybe not. Ah, that was bound in there a little bit. It got bound on the screw, I think, in here. You can't really see it very well, but a little teeny bit of pressure released it. But it looks good now. Is this moving? Yeah. And that should actually move with it, as far as I can see. I don't think this is meant to be super tight. Let's see. I think the bolt head is supposed to have freedom to move. Yeah. With the cam. Just a teensy bit more. Don't want it binding, but I want it a little wee bit tighter. Okay, that looks good. Okay, we're putting our spring back in to the side cams. And we're going to hold this here. I'm going to grab it with a screwdriver and try the same way we did before. Put it on the edge, stretch out, and pop it on. There we go. It's on there. So now we'll try to snap back. It's snapped into place. And they're moving freely. Both directions. 4 degrees of freedom. So now we just put it all back together. Let's take these AVSim soft center cams that came stock on it. But you can tell what they are by these 2 little bumps. I'm not sure if you can see this. But it has 2 bumps. The no centers have no bumps. And the soft centers have at least the CosmoSims, the soft centers have a single bump, and the no centers have no bumps. Okay, so now what we have to do is reassemble this. Very careful to make sure that the wires in here very unwieldy because it's sitting on a kind of stem that the grip attaches to. And make sure that this is clear of any moving parts. That's the most important thing. If we take this cord and put it back into its little grommet, or whatever, the little slot that it goes into, it's probably an incorrect term. Okay, moving it, and looks like it's not going to interfere with anything. It's well on the other side of the plate, so we'll turn this puppy over and get our screws back in. Screw number 1. No. Lower left here and start it. Okay, we got that one going in. We'll go to the upper right and start it. Should be lined up pretty good. Jostle around a wee bit. There it is. And we've hand started that guy. Now the others should be pretty easy to get going. So now it's oriented correctly. And as I suspected it is. So now we can hand tighten these all back down. Can't really see it because my hands are in the way, but get the idea of what's happening. Just make sure everything looks good. And we'll get our other screwdriver. Tighten this up. Obviously it doesn't need to be very tight. Oh, very unwieldy. This plate is so big and this thing is basically not staying still because it's sitting on this. So that's kind of annoying, but not much you can do about it. So, well, I'm trying to do this so I'm holding the plate up a little bit so I can see the screw hole and get that first one aligned. But maybe that's not the way to do it. Come on, get in there. There we go. I got the first one in, the rest should be a little easier, especially after I get the caddy corner on in. Okay. Let's get this one. A little slop, but not much. This can't get any purchase with my fingers anymore because they're so low. Kind of go around in a pattern here to make sure that the plate, these are countersunk into the plate, so we'll make sure that these are aligned decently so the plate is in the right position for all the screws to countersink in. Put the plate back on. Best tolerance on these cheap Home Depot Chinese screwdrivers. This one has much better tolerance, the Boxer, than this other brand that I'm using here, HDX. So I'm doing the final tightening with the Boxer. Okay. They're in there nice and tight. They're not going to come loose or protrude out the bottom, make things uneven. This one is a little strippier than the others. Okay, so now we have this. assembled. It's tight. We'll grab our grip. First, let me clean my hands a little bit to get the oil off. And take our grip. And the thing about these grips is you can kind of put them on at different angles and just tighten them as desired. Let me stay closer, I think, so you can see it. Better. But the key here is to get this thing plugged in, and these have a little bit of extra room on them. You can pull them out just so you can get your fingers on them and get them plugged into the DIN plug. I kind of wish they used something other than a DIN, but they wanted to make them compatible with the Thrustmasters, so they went with the DIN. I'd kind of prefer just something simple like even a USB. But obviously that's probably not going to fit as tightly as they might want it to. So yeah, you can't really, you got to really pull this out as far as you can pull it gently, of course, and then get this in there good. It's not the most positive engagement of this connector here, so you got to make sure that it's actually in there tight. A lot of people that have problems with these Virpils, it's because they think they have it plugged in, they really don't. So then push straight down on it to get that connector back up in the grip. Position the stick kind of as you want it. I tend to tilt with my left hand. I tend to rotate mine slightly to the left. It's a little more ergo that way. And then you just tighten the sleeve, whatever you call this tightener, so it's nice and tight. And it's on. And we have our new cams, and it definitely does feel, especially gripping it from up on the stick where you have more leverage, it's definitely more forgiving. Since this is my left stick, this in Star Citizen, which is the primary thing I use this with, space games, would be my thrust vector stick, essentially strafe forward, strafe back, strafe left, strafe right, and then twist for strafe up and strafe down to the right. And obviously the strafe up and down is a personal preference thing. The strafe down for me, I make go to the right because it's kind of I use a mnemonic aid of essentially righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So I imagine myself like putting a lid on a jar, and or putting my finger on a screw and twisting it to the right. When you do that, it goes down, so my ship goes down. So that's my logic, at least. Because when I was flying, I found myself kind of like trying to remember like which way is up, which way is down, because it's not, because you're mapping it to a twist axis, it's not as intuitive as you might think. You get used to it, obviously, but I set it up that way so I can remember, like, right down, left up. If you're screwing a screw, right down, left up. If you're putting a lid on a peanut butter jar, it's twist it to the right, it goes down. Twist to the left, it comes up. So that's my little memory aid there. Anyway, the next step with this will be to plug it in with the Virpil software and recalibrate the whole thing, because the cam profile's changed. I don't know why it's beeping at me. Oh, because I put a warning up on the other screen, which I didn't see, because we're recording on a second screen here, and yeah. So let's load the VPC device. And then we see we have away movement. So now we'll go and we will calibrate the axis. Or I should say recalibrate. it does seem that taking this thing apart, putting the new cams in, did kind of mess with the calibration. So that's calibrated now. Forward, backwards, left, right. And then twist. And then we also have our mini stick, which we will move to its extents. And we should have now all of our axes. And then at this point we save the calibration to the profile. And the stick should be calibrated. It has to reboot first. Okay, now it's rebooted, it's come back. And looks pretty solid. The raw values are moving around a little bit, but they're generally doing what you'd expect. It's damping all that out. And it's good, it should work. We'll also be able to load it back up again and see our settings. LED colors, I'm not going to mess with those. Firmware, I'm not going to mess with that. I have upgraded it when I first got the sticks, but I'm a kind of wait and see guy on the Virpil firmware because I read the forum and I see a lot of interesting things that happen when people upgrade their firmware sometimes, so I'm a little leery of doing it until it's been out for a few weeks. I know everything's copacetic. Okay, so it all looks good. I'm going to quit the video and hopefully we have a good recording of the screen.